back to Both Sides Book Club, another episode with yours truly, Catie
and Debbie.
And today we are chatting about The Good Mother by Rae Cairns. And, you know, what a great book. I loved reading this one. A different pace, very easy to read. And I felt like it really just took, it was kind of like watching a crime series or like.
Yeah, exactly. A good sort of fast-paced action thriller, but with heaps of great characterization and moral dilemmas and in it too.
So before we get started, Mum, what was your highlight of the last week or the last month? What's been your highlight of last month since we caught up?
Oh, wow. It's been an action-packed month. As you probably all know, we all got COVID. So that was kind of like the down, the worst part of the month. But I think having everyone over at Easter and spending lots of time with the grandkids was great fun.
Yeah. I'd say my downfall for the last month also was having COVID. But then my highlight was going to Blues Fest, which is a music festival that they have in Byron. And it was the first time it had returned since
for a couple of years.
Yeah, since COVID. So it was so awesome just dancing with the crowd and listening to live music and actually feeling live music again. So that was amazing. So on to books. So for anyone that hasn't read this book or would like a refresher, this book is about a mother called Sarah, who is like your local, you know, your standard soccer mum in Sydney, got 3 kids, and her son is really, really good at soccer and gets offered this scholarship place in Ireland. And Sarah's definitely very anxious about sending him to go do this.
Basically, she says no.
And, however, after much pleading, she agrees and he goes off to Ireland. But there's kind of in this story, there's lots of secrets. There's things that, you know, we don't quite know, and her family certainly doesn't know, particularly doesn't understand the hesitation that Sarah has to allow her son to go to Ireland. Sarah gets involved in this relationship with these 2 brothers who end up getting Sarah to come back to Ireland, where she was previously, many, many years ago, caught up in some bad business. And she's asked to testify in a court case. So a lot kind of goes down, a lot of secrets unveil, and you basically see what Sarah is willing to do to protect her family and also what she's willing to do to protect her secrets from her family. So really great book, really enjoyed it. And as usual, because we're the best, not as usual, we are very fortunate, but we have the lovely Rae Cairns joining us very shortly to talk to us all about this book. Hi, Rae, how are you?
Hi.
Welcome to Both Sides Book Club.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
We so appreciate you having here, and congratulations on such a great book. We loved it. It was really fast-paced to read. I really enjoyed it, actually.
Oh, good. Thank you.
It was beautiful.
It's always a bit nerve-wracking.
Oh, don't be nervous. We're so grateful to have you. But yeah, it was nice to each book has got a different pace, and I really felt like that the pace in this was it kind of shut the rest of the world off from me. I had a couple times when my daughter was like trying to scream for my attention, and I was like trying to get through.
I had some like that when I was trying to write it.
Exactly. So, Rae, before we get started, I just thought perhaps you could give us a tiny little bit of a history lesson into what was happening in Northern Ireland and what was going on in Belfast. Just because I feel like to give a little bit, us Aussies, I was saying to Mum, I feel like we don't get taught about Irish history in our curriculum and stuff. I feel like unless you kind of go and sort out and, you know, try and find out for yourselves what was happening. It's kind of like it's not known facts. Whereas Mum's from the UK.
I grew up in the UK, so it was very relevant to me. And in fact, one of my dearest friends is from Derry, so I went over there a number of times during the 1980s. So I kind of experienced firsthand what you're going to talk about. But Katie's quite right. You know, it's like troubles. Well, what troubles? What actually did that mean?
So maybe you could give us just a little rundown with what was going on.
Look, it's very complex. I'm an outsider. I'm very nervous.
Totally.
But look, it kind of, the Troubles itself refers to like a 30-year period in Northern Ireland of a sectarian conflict between Unionist forces, people that wanted to keep Northern Ireland part of the UK, and Republican forces that wanted to make that area of land part of the Republic of Ireland. And it kind of involved lots of paramilitaries. So it's kind of almost like a country at war with itself is an easier way to describe it. I hope that's not. And then there was also the British Army were called in, and that kind of became the powder keg to everything. But it was actually the Catholics that called the British Army in at first. So it's so complex. But that's the basic. So a lot of people have heard of the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, and there's lots and lots of offshoots. And then you've kind of got the Protestant equivalents, which is the UVF, the Ulster Volunteer Force, and things like that.
Amazing. So you were a youth worker in Belfast.
I was. I went over with a bit of a change of career. I had been in performing arts since I was 18 months old.
Oh, wow.
I was on a shampoo bottle. And
really? That's great.
And then I kind of went on to singing, dancing, acting. I was in the Sydney troupe of Young Talent Time.
Amazing.
And then I went on to university and studied performing arts. I was in the same year as Joel Edgerton.
Oh.
Who was an amazing actor and the loveliest guy. And then we got to the end of our degree, we graduated, and unlike him, I went, I think I'm done.
Don't think I want to do this. Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. It's just not for me. And I don't know. There's a lot I loved about the industry, but I had lived a full career.
Yeah. Already by that stage.
Yeah. So I thought that I wanted to go into psychology or social work or something like that, but I wasn't sure. So I thought I'd dip my toe in the water, so to speak, and I applied to International Volunteers Abroad, and thinking I would go somewhere in Asia or something, and they sent me to Belfast.
Amazing.
Because I had my music and drama and all that works really well working with young people.
Yeah, of course.
So I went over there, and my first job was in Crossmaglen, which is known as Bandit Country. So it was ruled by the IRA. It had a huge British military base there that like the British Army had to fly in helicopters. They couldn't travel in on the road, or they'd get mortar attacks and stuff. But I was just in the youth centre there, sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor.
Really? Yeah.
No way. The kids would come in, and I'd work with them in the day and play games and sport and do drama and music and stuff with them. And I loved it. I had an amazing time. I loved being in the village. It was a shock. It was quite a different environment. But it had a little bit of that summer camp feel.
Yeah.
And then I was invited back to go to Belfast, and that was with an organisation through the European Union. So, and the goal was to kind of help bring about peace, bringing both sides together. So I would take kids from lower socioeconomic areas, mostly kids from the paramilitaries like the IRA and the UVF, and I would take them on camps together, and they'd meet for the first time. And their parents loved it because it was free babysitting.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, they would say to their kids, I don't care what the camp organisers say, you are not to talk to anyone from the other side.
Yes.
So the kids would come in, 7-year-olds, 12-year-olds, kind of did 5. I think we did 5 to 15, I think. Was what I did. But they would come in and they would stand on opposite sides of the room. They wouldn't talk to each other. They just glare at each other.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the week, their arms were wrapped around each other and they were best mates. And then they'd have to pretend to their parents that they hadn't.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And then once a week we'd bring them together. Sorry.
Have you seen, just reminding me of this, have you seen the Kenneth Branagh movie Belfast?
Yes. It's just so good.
Isn't it just incredible? But what you're saying is exactly that. Buddy, who is Kenneth Branagh as a child, is growing up in Belfast and then just suddenly, you know, the walls go up, the barricades, and they're not allowed to talk to kids that they've
played in the street with.
Played in the street with forever.
Yeah, and all of a sudden those people are being burnt out of their homes. And it is so well depicted. That the helicopter scene with the spotlight. I'm still can't stand helicopters. Like my whole family know that I get up and I have to walk around and I don't
make you really nervous.
That used to happen.
Yeah.
Like in the 90s, when I was working there, I'd be coming home from work and a helicopter would just hover and put a spotlight on me and just follow along. And I'd be there going, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just trying to go home.
Wow.
You know? But the intimidation of it and the fear that it engendered in me stayed.
Did you know what you were? Did you know what you were what you were walking into when you got that job?
I was so naive.
Were you? Because how old would you have been? You would have been just finished school, so early 20s. Yeah,
mid-20s. And I thought I knew. I'd done lots of reading. U2 was my favourite band. I thought I understood everything.
But how could you possibly? You just don't, right?
Can't until you step into it. And it's just it's such a the relationships that you have there, while they were amazing and I made some incredible friends, they were all ambiguous.
Yes.
I could never fully know where someone was coming from. And that goes from like a 5-year-old on the street who would come up and start talking to me because I'd walked onto their street. And you very quickly learned that they had been sent by the paramilitaries. Obviously, I'm talking within paramilitary areas, but they had been sent by them to find out who I was.
Yeah, and what you were doing there.
And if I gave the wrong answer, things weren't going to be so good. So g'day was my favourite word. It just poured out of me all the time.
Wow.
So you set up this sort of persona as being a part, an Australian who was sort of
If they'd say to me, are you Catholic or Protestant, I'd say I'm Australian.
Yeah.
Because that was my nationality and that was their nationalities. I mean, there was a whole joke. They used to joke if someone said that they were Muslim. They'd say, yeah, but are you a Protestant Muslim or a Catholic Muslim? You know, it just, their world, it was such a different way of approaching things. So I found my way to make that work and I used my naivety as well. Like I was picked up at my door by a group of 4 paramilitary men who decided, their commander had decided that he thought I was favouring the other side. They bundled me in a car and put me in the back seat between 2 of them and drove me off to the commander's house, and he just wanted to explain what their side was and their part of the cause. And so I just learned to go, tell me.
You must have been terrified. Wow. You must have been absolutely terrified.
This is the thing. At the time, you're not. Well, I wasn't. It was just you were in a constant state of the cortisol levels were high and you're in a constant state of managing danger, I guess.
Yeah.
Even just the simplest of things, everything had that undercurrent. So I went to the 11th night bonfires, which is a unionist, a loyalist event.
Yeah.
And it happens every year, and I had to go because some of the kids I was working with were going and I didn't want them to get into trouble. And so I was kind of went along. And it was sold to me as, it's a street party and, you know, don't worry about it, it's great. And you can see them for the month leading up. I don't know if you've ever seen it, probably not on TV, but they build these bonfires. They are like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
3 stories high, made of wooden crates, like the shipping pallets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are enormous. And they're in like the car park.
What?
And bordering them are all the houses, and it's just insane. And then on the 11th night, you know, there's marching bands and everyone's big street party, everyone's drinking and everything, and they light this insane bonfire. There's little kids running around and everything. And then, you know, 4 masked men just come in their balaclavas and start shooting guns in the air. And you're just like, this is insane. This is just,
this cannot be real.
Wait a minute, bullets go up, they've got to come down. What happens? I don't understand what happens now. But that was just, to everyone else, that was just
normal.
Kind of, So when you're there, you just cope.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can understand.
That I struggled when I got home.
Yeah, the adjustment, right? Coming home and
it just was incongruous. This world that I wasn't, aware of. I don't know. I'd had a very different relationship to the police. Like I just trusted the police. And look, that is very much my personal experience in Australia. I know other people in Australia haven't had that experience, so I'm fully prepared to acknowledge that. But, yeah, for me, it was just such a different I got home and I couldn't get on public transport. I just didn't really want to be around crowds, whereas over there I was very social. I was fine. So, yeah.
Wow.
So why then did you choose years later to revisit this? Was it sort of like a cathartic experience or?
Look, I had met a guy. I was dating him and he very charming, romanced me, wooed me, all of that, and music and dancing and everything. And then an acquaintance of ours let it slip that he was an active paramilitary member. And I was really working against that. So, I broke it off. It was early days. But the questions that kind of I was left with from that really stayed with me. Like I didn't even know if the relationship was real, like whether he was with me to get information. I was working with both sides and meeting both sides. Yeah, and then I was also like, oh my gosh, did I let anything slip? Like there's that
panic.
nervousness.
Oh my gosh, like going through everything with a comb.
Yeah, and when would he have told me? Like at what point would I have found out? Would I have been too deep in?
Yeah.
To
have been able to.
Because none of my friends told me. They all knew. Like it was just this weird thing. And then also kind of as time went on was that question, well, what happened if we ever met again?
Yeah.
What if I bumped into him on the street? So those stayed with me. And then when my kids went off to high school, I knew I wanted to sit down and just kind of get it out of my head, whatever was happening in there. And I was a mum and I found myself, I'd always said, I'd do anything to protect my kids and stuff. And then I kind of really investigated that.
Yeah.
What are the practicalities of that look like? The moral complexities, I'd do anything to protect my kids, but would I? How far would I go?
Yeah, what exactly would you do or wouldn't you do?
Yeah. Yeah. So that melded with the questions I had.
Wow.
And then I went back in 2016 with my husband and kids just to kind of walk the streets of Belfast again today and Cross McLean and fact check a bit and stuff. And I realised I wanted to also fold in the impact of ongoing conflict on individuals. And that's kind of how the two boys, Liam and Declan, came into it. You see them kind of as 10 and then you see them as adults because when the peace was declared, the people were just expected to move on and become like this totally normal, average, everyday country overnight.
And you're right. I mean, the Troubles were 68 to 98. So it was a 30-year span. So that's actually several generations.
Exactly. And you've got generations who've been raised, you're going to be the next sniper. You're going to be the next bomb maker. What do you do with those skills once those jobs aren't happening, or smuggling or bank robbing that was part of the fabric of those paramilitaries.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to explore what the kids from those areas then went on to do and how they coped.
And even now, I mean, there's still that undercurrent there, isn't there? I mean, when during Brexit, for example, when they were looking at what the border was going to look like, was it going to be a hard border? There was definitely still so much unrest and nervousness about
anytime
that.
You challenge the status quo, it all flares up again. But even when I was there in 2016, there was still bombings and there was a bomb in a garbage can, and there are still riots every year around the marches and all of that stuff.
There's still sort of segregation. I mean, there's still sort of some of the walls and things are still up, aren't they?
Yeah, the peace walls.
Yeah, the peace walls are still there.
And they still close the gates at night, and it's still still got the red, white and blue up the sidewalk of the Loyalist areas. The flags are everywhere. The barbed wires still in places. There's still some of the murals are quite, some of them have been modified, I guess, but there are still some quite violent murals there and surprising. So it's just, but even that, growing up, walking down the street, passing a mural with a machine gun aimed at you is nothing over there. Whereas if you had that here, it'd be like, what?
Yeah. You'd think it's a satire or something,
get
right?
Your kids and your
Yeah.
So
Wow. This might be a too personal question, but did you feel like after writing the novel you had a bit of closure over, like, I can just imagine being, with married and kids and moving life along and entertaining those ideas of like what could have been, or like, I mean, I feel like everybody has that, what your life would look like if you did X, Y, and Z. Do you think that writing the novel gave you closure? Like if you entertained that idea for manifesting the book?
Yeah, look, it definitely wasn't the intention, and it certainly isn't my story. But yeah, so just dealing. So when I got back from Northern Ireland, I literally got my letters, my home, my diaries, my photos, and all the emotions and memories, and boxed them up and put them under my bed.
Wow.
And didn't talk about it to anyone.
Yeah.
So my mum found out all my stories when I released the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So that was how I dealt.
First of all,
that's a lot of baggage, Rae.
First of all, well done for like getting that out. That's incredible. Well done.
It was just, I guess I was ready.
Yeah, it was time. Yeah.
But also when I got home, I mean, I remember the first time I sat down trying to explain to a friend, like they were asking questions about what it was like there. And I started talking and I said to them, this just sounds like a really bad B-grade movie.
Yeah.
It was so incongruous to life here that I just couldn't explain or make it. And I hadn't processed enough what had happened there.
Yeah.
And that kind of whole fight or flight reflex took a long time to get under control. And, that's just the nature of anybody, I think, that's spent time in any kind of war zone.
Yeah, that
you have that
systemic trauma.
I feel like I can understand a little bit, and I'm not comparing at all what happened in Belfast with the floods, but even just that extent, like I volunteered a lot with the floods, and lots of my friends lost houses and belongings and stuff. And it was absolutely like devastating and heartbreaking. And to an extent, besides bombs and guns and stuff, the devastation did look like what a war zone would look like. It was awful. It was horrible. And trying to explain that to like even some people in the Gold Coast or whatever, they were like, oh yeah, but it floods in that area all the time. And you're like, well, you don't actually you can't possibly understand until you're smelling the smells and you're seeing the devastation on the people's faces.
And the rain starts again.
And the rain starts again.
And you're picking up photographs that are disintegrating in your fingers of people's mother's photograph, It's like you can't explain that to anyone without actually, it's really hard. There's that big gap, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's a multi-sensory experience. So I can understand what you're saying. Even though I haven't experienced it, but
No, you're absolutely correct. That's exactly what it is, the multi-sensory. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, we'll go on to it. He's talking about the storyline in a moment. But there's one snippet that I heard about you, and that was part of your research, that you went and learned how to shoot a gun. Can you tell us about that?
So in the book, Sarah, before she goes back to Northern Ireland, needs to go, and she decides she wants to protect herself somehow, so she goes to learn to shoot a gun. And I thought, well, I need to understand what that experience is like. How long would it take? What kind of skill would I have at the end of a very small section of time doing that? And I also did a small thing of martial arts, just to get a feel for how it all worked physically, blocking it and everything. So, it was great. It was an amazing experience to do, and I didn't understand how the pressure it would be on my wrists and things like that.
So it was a handgun?
I did, a couple of different handguns though. So I can't remember. Like I went from an old-fashioned one through to like a police gun. So I handled the different ones and shot. I even managed to hit the target. So I love that part of writing, the research part. Yeah. I just love it. Yeah.
So in this book, there's a lot of secrets. There's a lot of things that Sarah doesn't want to, or has for some reason, for whatever her motives is too painful or doesn't want to bring up with her current family, about what happened. So, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit in terms of kind of relationships with her husband and her kids, like. Or her ex-husband and her kids, and how that hiding secrets can affect them and the structure of your family.
Yeah, look, I think obviously I used what my experience was as a springboard. I didn't share anything when I got home, and that helped me manage life.
Yeah.
And I think, now I can say that was obviously PTSD. And so I think secrets is often a way people, they think if they don't talk about it and they just almost pretend it didn't exist, that they can then move forward and survive and make their life work. Yeah. But if you haven't dealt with the issues, you compensate in unhealthy ways is what I would perhaps say. So in Sarah's case, she doesn't trust anyone. I mean, she doesn't have anyone to trust. Her family doesn't have her back. She really is alone. And Evan is an amazing guy, but she's not capable of, at that point, she has been betrayed by too many people in her life. What she's learned to do is turn in on herself and only trust herself. And I suppose that's part of what the book is about, is her learning to reach out to others.
She does have a really nice relationship with Evan's parents, though. Why?
I mean, she does.
I feel like she's really has like an endearing relationship with them, right? Like, I don't know. Did you choose to do that to give her some sort of, like, I feel like she really does trust them.
Yeah, I think she absolutely does, and I think ultimately she trusts Evan. But it's, once you've kept a secret, the longer it goes on, the harder and harder it is, I think, to share it.
To let go of them.
It then, it totally gets away from you. And I think that's what happened with Evan and why she didn't really share much of what happened there. And he accepted that without realising the damage it could cause.
And the implications of that over a long period, because she's so tightly wound. Isn't she?
She is.
You could just imagine like the slightest thing and she'd go off. She's the ultimate. She's just
has like to control everything.
She has to control
because that's
everything.
Her only way to feel safe.
Yeah,
it's really interesting to me. Like I love that you raised that, because for me, I think if you took Sarah out and you put a Vietnam vet in, people would be very accepting of her of the PTSD, of the controlling nature, of the anxiety, of all those things. But because it's Northern Ireland and perhaps a female, you have to kind of recalibrate a little bit, but it's the same.
But also female and a mother. I feel like under that stereotype of a mother, like, how often do you get accused from like, oh, you're just like, even already I get it, like, oh, you're just reading into that, or like, oh, like you're overreacting or whatever. Or like, I'm also, but I'm also like I will happily admit I also stereotype other women. Like, I don't know their context, and I'll see a little toddler like screaming at the park and like they're having a big blow up, and I'm like, just leave the toddler alone. Like, I'm judging her, So it's very, very easy to judge Sarah through a context of a modern eye of like, and I guess that's what you got the title of the book, The Good Mother,
and
right?
That's what I actually wanted to do. I wanted to challenge the reader. So, I mean, I know she irritates the bejesus out of people. Yeah. Sometimes, like some people actually I totally get her.
I wasn't irritated by her at all.
No,
actually.
I was to start with. I totally was to start with. I just wanted to say, just stop meddling, just stop, like
just leave them be.
Just leave them be.
Really? I wasn't. I was like, get him, put the weed in the backpack, get her. Later
the thing is, like, it's that it makes you question. That was what I wanted to do. I set out to, like, how do we judge women, especially mothers?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all are trying to do our best. And, you know, it's very easy to judge somebody else when you don't know, like you said, when you don't know what their backstory or their. So I wanted the reader going, what on earth is her problem here? It's only a soccer camp in Dublin.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you do? Let him go. He's 16 and he's a good kid, such a good kid.
Yeah.
And nobody trusts her instincts, and nobody listens to her fears. Yeah. And in actual fact, she's
spot on.
In them.
Yeah, I mean, she is.
And I think it goes back to that.
She's also set up a situation she can't tell anybody.
Exactly. And it goes back to, like, those things of, like, your perception is not my reality. But also on top of that is, like, the mother's intuition is beyond. Like, and you can't, like, it's so crazy that we as a society are always second guessing mothers.
Yes.
And I can understand that sometimes your feelings can cloud your judgment, but also this power of the mother's intuition is just, like, it's probably one of the most magical things that we have on this planet, right? Like, it's the fact that we can completely, without any reason or know straight away something's up. And, you know, and it's that I think you've done it really well. You've depicted perfectly what society we question mothers and, bravo. Yeah, basically, what am I trying to say? You've done a good job.
I really wanted to do that, though. That was the goal of the book was playing with that idea and kind of getting her in situations where the reader would go, oh my God, she can't do that, and then going, well, what can she do?
Yeah,
she's an everyday person. That was the big. I really love writing an everyday person like that. I think all my books will have that. It's not. I don't. As much as I love police procedurals and I love them, I wanted her to have no skills that she could draw on in that sense.
Yeah.
I want an everyday person going, well, okay, well, she shouldn't do that. That's wrong. But what can she do?
Yeah.
She's really cornered.
Or it's even like, I feel like even before you judge, or not before, but you look at her through judgment as a mother, but I feel like you also look at her as, like, judgment of, like, oh, what a silly young girl in Belfast falling in love with somebody that was obviously involved with something, you know? And it's the same thing. You're putting that stereotype of, like, well, you don't know the circumstances. Like, you don't know what it's like nobody telling you the truth and you're believing one thing, which, you know, I'm talking about an experience you've had, so maybe you can shed some more light on it.
My best friends over there did not tell me.
It's just crazy.
The guy I was dating was like, I was living with these friends. They did not tell me.
And they didn't mention it at all? No.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. Like, and it really rocked my trust of everyone.
And how was your relationship with them? Like, after you did discover it, you just moved out and you just couldn't know.
Yeah. Well, because I couldn't trust any of the relationships that I'd thought I'd built. You know, and had you asked me pre that, I would have said, you know, they are some of my best friends in the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think even that, like, it's very easy to go, oh, they're naive, or they're coming back to what you were just saying about people saying about the floodplains. Oh, it floods there all the time.
Yeah.
There's so much more to
the story.
Yes.
And, I think if we had more compassion for other people, I don't know.
Yeah.
Get a deeper understanding of ourselves as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what I really love, as I said, Sarah did irritate me to start with. I admit it.
She really didn't irritate me at all.
But you know, I thought her courage and just her determination was absolutely terrific. You know, she was just dogged. She was like, she would just went, right, no, I'm going to do this, and just
Which
sort of
I have to say, I find a lot of mothers are about their kids.
Exactly. That's
Not
what
themselves.
I was going to say.
Maybe we should be more for ourselves. I could do with a sauna.
But she was just determined and dogged. Yeah.
And I guess it goes to that question of like, is she a good mother? And I think you just like, what is a good mother? Seriously.
I know.
Like, I'm so over it. Like, what is a good mum? You know, like
exactly. I got asked to write something on what is a good mother, and I was just like, oh, women have been being assessed on this for so long. Can we stop? Like, what is good? What is, is a good mother someone that loves her kids? Then yes, she is. Is a good mother someone that's a role model and not breaking the law? Then maybe not. Is a good mother someone that will go as far as she possibly can to protect her kids?
Well, yes, totally.
I really, that's why I really
totally
wanted to kind of face people a bit up with that. Like, you know, I think women are being constantly just, gosh, I mean, I remember going to mother's group with my 3-month-old and it was 6 months. It was at 6 months.
Yeah.
And someone saying to me, you know, I can't believe you're feeding her broccoli. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it's green. I'm just happy she's eating it.
She's eating it.
but it was a judgment. And I felt that a lot with motherhood.
Yeah.
Like each step of the way, learning how to navigate that and to, I guess, push it away.
Yeah.
So I suppose that was part of what I was exploring and trying to get the reader to think a bit.
Just to drop the stereotypes, I think. Just as like it's just exhausting. I don't know. It's so exhausting. Like even like the classic thing, and I'm also like, I can say that I've done this before having my daughter Pippi, and I'm new to motherhood. My daughter's only 10 months old. But, you know, I would ask friends that had kids, oh, you just love being a mum. And now that is I hate that question. When someone comes up to me who hasn't got a kid, sorry to everyone of my friends that have asked me this, oh, do you just love being a mum? I'm like, well, you know, I love my daughter so much. She's the freaking bee's knees. I would do anything for her. Yeah. I'm obsessed with her. Do I love the role of being a mum? Not really. Like it's a lot of cleaning up, like a lot of like late nights, like a lot of identity change, a lot of body change. I'm like, you know what? Huge. Being a mum, the role of the mothers, I don't love that, you know, but it doesn't mean that I'm not a good mum. You know, it doesn't mean that I'm not obsessed with my daughter and that she's thriving, you know, and it's just getting through those stereotypes that no matter what, you don't have to love every part of it. It doesn't make you a bad mum. You don't have to be good at everything. You don't have to be good at anything, you know.
You're so much further along than I was with my 10 months.
Oh, really?
I'm so pleased for you. I was still trying to be perfect. Oh, there is no such thing.
There's no such thing. I don't have time to be perfect. That is way too hard. You ask my mum's like, you probably should buy her some new clothes. And I'm like, really? She still fits them.
I think we need to pull them a little bit underneath the couch.
Yeah, they used to be pants, not shorts.
She's warm. It's fine, right? So no, I applaud you for kind of exploring that theme of trying to break down those stereotypes of like what the good mother should be, because it is such a, I mean, you've definitely tackled a lot of themes and a lot of topics, which is why we chose your book, because we love talking about books that address lots of different things. But it's actually so refreshing to read a book that does question those ideologies of what being a mum is, and perhaps a lesson for us all to sort of break the judgment and go, well, you know what? Like I said, your perception is not my reality.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when are you turning it into a movie?
It's not up to me to turn into a movie. Someone else will do it.
Hey, agents out there, great movie.
It would be amazing to see it as a movie.
Oh, it would be fantastic.
There's a trailer for it on SBS at the moment.
I've seen it.
It's like it. Oh, have you?
Yeah, I've actually seen it. It was good.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think, actually, but talking about the visual aspect of it, do you think that, you know, your career in performing arts and your acting skills and so on contributed to the way you wrote the book in terms, I mean, do you actually kind of like visualize, or did you visualize it?
Visual person.
Yeah.
I see the whole scene in my head visually, the setting. And then I will even get up and my poor husband, I'll block scenes with him and like, you know, in acting. Stand there, do this. He's a pilot. He's like, this is not my scene.
That's amazing.
But move your hand here. So I use the acting a lot, the dialogue.
Yeah.
Speak out the dialogue.
Yeah, I loved your dialogue scenes. I found them I really liked reading the dialogue.
I think the dialogue worked incredibly.
And really setting that pace as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was as pacey as it is when I was writing it.
No, it's good. I think it's good. No, it added to Sarah's kind of it kind of married well with Sarah's quick thinking, intuitive, let's go. I feel like the pace kind of, if it wasn't as pacey, I don't think I would have felt the urgency from Sarah, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I didn't.
Anyway.
Just
so are you writing another book?
I am. I'm about to hand it in to HarperCollins.
Yay!
Fingers crossed. It's a standalone thriller again. And it opens with a budding journalist getting a phone call from her sister who's trapped in the boot of a moving car.
Like you do.
As you do. And then, it kind of goes on to explore the impact of somebody missing and no answers on a family and trying to find answers.
Amazing.
Can't wait.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Well, thank you so much, Rae. We really appreciate you chatting to us. And
it was fun. In the morning.
And it was really great and I really appreciate your vulnerability too and sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome. It's fine. It was lovely to talk to you both.
Okay.
You too. And congratulations again on The Good Mother. And we go out there and buy it, everybody, because it's a wonderful book.
And hopefully we'll chat to you soon about your next book.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rae. We'll chat to you very soon.
Thanks, Rae.
Thanks so much for having me.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
That was a great chat.
Yeah, it was. I know we say this a lot, but I am so grateful that we get to talk to the authors. And it just feels like you get so much more out of the book.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I found it really, really interesting. So thank you so much, Rae, for joining us on this episode. We really, really appreciate it. So, Mum, what's the next book?
Okay, so our next book is called Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. This is a fun book.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, this is a super quirky, fun book. Mother's Day is coming up, and I think it's a perfect book either to give to yourself or to give to your mum.
Yeah.
So, it's
does that mean my Mother's Day present's sorted for you? I can just give
No, actually, I'm going to give it to you. Yeah, we're sorted.
Yeah, great.
So it's set in the States in the 1960s. And the main protagonist is a scientist called Elizabeth Zott, who has never really kind of fulfilled the stereotypical image of what a woman in her time and place should be like, should do.
In a bygone era.
In a bygone era. Well, that's something we can talk about.
Okay.
In a bygone era. She falls in love with another equally unlikely scientist, a chemist, and they vow that they're never ever going to get married, and they don't want children. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Calvin actually dies, and Elizabeth finds out she's pregnant. So she brings up her daughter alone, and along the way, she goes from being a working chemist to being the star of the most famous cooking show in America that comes to the nation every day at 6 o'clock. Read the book and we'll find out more about it. ...
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, we appreciate you and we love having you in our book club. We're so looking forward to chatting to you very soon. So happy reading.
Have a good month. We hope you enjoyed watching this episode.
If you did, please leave us a comment below. We'll see you soon.